All right, so strap in, everyone, because this deep dive, well, it's a doozy. We got a mountain of stuff to go through on Sam Altman. You guys sent over articles, forum threads, court documents.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
Seems like everyone wants to know, right? Is he a visionary, a villain, or, I don't know, somewhere in between?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there about Altman. A lot of them clash, too. So I guess the best place to start is probably at the beginning. Like, map out his journey a little.
Yeah, okay, so rewind back. Where'd this whole Silicon Valley prodigy story even begin?
Well, it's funny you should say prodigy because Altman's story, well, it's a little bit like a textbook tech origin story. He was born in '85, get this coding by the time he's 8, and then
Yeah.
launches his first company at 19.
Wow.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, right? Was he just destined for all this? Or was he just good at, I don't know, riding the dot-com wave?
Right, right. And that first company, it was called Looped, right? Wasn't that some kind of social media thing before, like, social media was even a thing?
Yeah, you got it. Looped.
Right.
It was a location-based social networking app. So think like, I don't know, early Foursquare, maybe? Even those early Facebook check-in things.
Oh.
It did okay. Got acquired after a while for a couple million. Not bad for, basically a teenager. But really, his real launch pad was Y Combinator.
Oh, yeah. Y Combinator. That's like Silicon Valley, right? It's like a straight line to success.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, they launched what? Airbnb, Dropbox, Stripe, Reddit. It's crazy.
It is.
And Altman, he was right in the thick of it. First as partner, then he became president. So he wasn't just riding the wave at this point. He was shaping it.
So he was already like a big deal in tech. But how does OpenAI fit into all this? Did he just see AI as like the next big thing to get in on?
I think it's a little more complicated than that. So while he was at Y Combinator, he wasn't just backing successful startups. He was already looking ahead, obsessed actually with what comes next. And for him, that was AI. But not just any AI, though. He was really fixated on something he called friendly AI. AI that, actually helps humanity.
Wow, friendly AI. That's pretty idealistic for Silicon Valley, isn't it?
That's what makes Altman so interesting, right? I mean, he gets this dream team together. So you've got Elon Musk, Jessica Livingston, Peter Thiel,
Wow.
and others, launches OpenAI in 2015, and they made it a nonprofit. Their whole mission was to, and I'm quoting here, ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity.
Pretty big goal.
Huge.
And they had some serious cash behind this mission too, right? Like $1 billion.
Yeah, it was a bold statement. $1 billion to figure out something as complex as AI. It was like almost a Manhattan Project for AI,
Right.
attracting all this crazy good talent by offering insane salaries, and then this idea that you could get in on something truly groundbreaking.
I can definitely see how that could be controversial. I mean, spending that much on people, it could look like a way to, I don't know, corner the market, right? Even if you're a nonprofit.
Yeah, for sure. OpenAI had its critics, even back then, but they were getting results. That's where those generative pre-trained transformer models, those GPTs come in.
GPTs, right. That's the stuff behind ChatGPT.
Exactly.
The chatbot that's writing poems and code, passing the bar exam even.
That's the one. OpenAI was pouring tons of resources into developing these GPT models, and it worked. The world was paying attention. Suddenly, AI wasn't just some far-off thing. It was real. And they had the tools to prove it. ChatGPT, DALL-E, even Sora, which is their mind-blowing text-to-video model.
It's like OpenAI went from 0 to 100 in like a week. But as they're making all these strides, the controversy is getting louder too, right?
Right. As their influence grew, so did their valuation, and so did the scrutiny. People started asking tougher questions, like about how aggressive they were at grabbing up all the best talent, or their secrecy, and, the big one, whether they were putting profits ahead of safety.
Yeah, so it's starting to shift. This isn't just an ambitious startup anymore. There's something bigger going on.
For sure. And in the middle of it all is Sam Altman.
Because this is all building up to what happened in November of 2023. What people call the OpenAI coup. The board fires Altman, the internet freaks out, and well, now we're questioning everything about OpenAI and Altman himself.
It was a huge deal. I mean, it shook up the entire tech world. And to really understand what happened, we need to talk about those clashing visions inside OpenAI and the accusations that were flying around about Altman.
Okay, so last time, things got pretty intense. We ended with this whole OpenAI coup.
Definitely a shakeup, more than just a board, like getting rid of a CEO.
Exactly right. It felt like philosophies were clashing, like a whole fight for the soul of AI.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So the board said they were concerned about Altman's behavior and the speed of AI development. But What were they actually worried about specifically?
Well, a big one was how aggressive OpenAI was being about hiring. They were basically going after all the top researchers, taking them from universities, from other companies.
Coach, basically. And they were offering crazy salaries, stock options. It was like an all-out bidding war for talent.
Okay, so on the surface, it's like, sure, they want the best minds. But was there a downside to this?
A lot of people thought so. The criticism was that it was like stifling competition, that all this talent was getting concentrated in OpenAI, and that it was hurting the field as a whole.
So instead of everyone working together to advance AI, it was like OpenAI was building its own little empire.
Exactly. And that secrecy. It wasn't just about hiring, it was everything. Their data, how they were keeping their AI models safe, their finances. They weren't being very transparent about any of it.
It's like they were building a fortress.
Right. And all this secrecy, it made people nervous.
Remember that whole thing about OpenAI possibly using stuff that was copyrighted to train their models?
Oh, yeah, that was a big one. People worried about bias in the models, that the tech would get misused. It felt like there was no accountability. So the board was getting spooked. They saw Altman pushing ahead at full speed and started getting worried about the potential fallout.
Right. And, there were also rumors going around, personality clashes, that Altman wasn't a great communicator, that he wasn't really listening to what the board had to say.
I've heard him described as like a classic tech visionary.
Yeah.
Super brilliant, but also super stubborn.
Yeah, it's almost like a cliche, right? The lone genius so focused on changing the world that he doesn't see the problems he might be creating.
And the irony is that OpenAI started with this whole mission about making AI benefit humanity. But somewhere along the way, it seems like that mission got lost. It became all about building bigger, faster, more powerful AI.
And this is where that whole almost religious divide in the AI world comes in. You've got people like Altman who think you have to push the limits of AI no matter what, that the benefits will eventually outweigh the risks, like a move fast and break things kind of approach.
Yeah, but when you're talking about something as powerful as AI, those broken things could be pretty serious.
Exactly. And then you've got the other side, the people saying we need to be way more careful, that we need to think about safety, ethics, what this tech could do to society.
Two very different ways of looking at it.
Absolutely. And the OpenAI coup, it was like all that tension just boiled over. It became this public fight about the future of AI.
But then things get even crazier, right? Altman gets fired, there's this huge outcry, and then Microsoft, out of nowhere, offers him a job leading their AI division.
It was a wild move. Microsoft was already a big investor in OpenAI, but this made things even more complicated. Some people saw it as Microsoft trying to take advantage of the situation, like swooping in to grab one of the biggest brains in AI while everything was falling apart.
So what happened to OpenAI? They were suddenly without a leader, everyone was criticizing them, things were a mess.
They were in a tough spot, facing like a total meltdown. So they did something pretty surprising. They brought Altman back.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a dramatic reunion, but it wasn't like everything just went back to normal.
Because they didn't just bring him back. They also announced that OpenAI was becoming a for-profit company.
Exactly, within 2 years.
Wow. That's a huge change. They basically flipped their whole mission on its head.
It was a shock. A lot of people were furious, including Elon Musk. Remember, he co-founded OpenAI, but he wasn't on the board anymore. He went on this whole rant saying it was a betrayal of their original principles, that they were putting money ahead of humanity.
So what was their reasoning? Why this sudden shift? Were they just selling out, like Musk said?
OpenAI's argument was that they needed a ton of money to keep developing cutting-edge AI, and that being a nonprofit made that almost impossible. They were up against these massive companies like Google, Meta. They needed to play on the same level.
So it was a matter of survival. Like if they wanted to stay in the game, they had to become a big tech company themselves.
That was the idea. But obviously, it also made people even more worried about OpenAI. Now, it really did look like they were putting profits first.
All right, so we're back. And we've been digging into this whole story with Sam Altman and OpenAI. It's a wild one. Lots of big ideas, lots of innovation, but also ton of controversy.
Yeah. And it's not just a Silicon Valley story anymore. This is about where AI is going, what it means for all of us.
Exactly. So let's take a step back for a second. OpenAI goes from this nonprofit to, well, now a for-profit company.
Mm-hmm.
How does that change things? What are the ripple effects here?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that it really separates them from that original mission, right? OpenAI started out wanting to democratize AI, make it available to everyone.
Right.
But now They're playing in the big leagues, competing with companies where profits are everything.
So it really makes you think, doesn't it? Who's in control of where AI goes next? Is it just these giant tech companies? Or, I don't know, is there a way to make sure everyone has a say?
That's the big question, right? And it's not just about who controls it. It's about how it gets developed, how it gets used. And when OpenAI made that shift to for-profit, it really ramped up those anxieties about an AI arms race. Everyone trying to build the biggest, fastest AI without really thinking about the
It's
risks.
like the internet all over again, but like on steroids.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about AI that can create fake images and videos that look totally real, AI that can write just like a human, AI that can write code. The potential is incredible, but so is the potential for things to go wrong.
We've already seen it happening, haven't we? Deep fakes, misinformation, even AI being used for weapons. It's kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah. And that's really the challenge. How do we make sure we're using this power for good? How do we keep things from spiraling out of control?
So what can we do? Can you even regulate something that's changing so fast?
It's tough. It's going to take everyone working together, governments, tech leaders, researchers, even just regular people. We need to figure out the ethics of all this. And we need rules.
Right. And it's not just about stopping bad people from doing bad things. It's about making sure AI benefits everyone, not just a few.
Absolutely. We need to think about bias in these systems, make sure data is being used responsibly, and that there's transparency. People need to be able to understand how this stuff works and hold the people building it accountable.
It's a huge undertaking, but it feels like, well, it feels like it has to happen.
It does, and it can't just be about rules and regulations. We need a whole culture shift, people talking openly about the issues, different points of view being heard, making ethics as important as, the next big breakthrough.
So where does Sam Altman fit into all of this? I mean, is he the good guy, the one pushing us toward a better future? Or is he just in it for himself, for the money, the power?
That's the question everyone's been asking for years, isn't it? He's a complicated guy, brilliant for sure, ambitious, but he also seems to do things his own way, even if it means, bending the rules a little.
Visionary, disruptor, villain, he's been called all of those things. And it seems like no one really knows for sure.
Maybe that's the point. His story, OpenAI's story, it's not over yet. It's still being written. And the choices they make, the choices we all make, they're going to determine what happens next with AI, what it all means for us.
So I guess the big takeaway here is that AI isn't just some science fiction thing anymore. It's here.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And it's already changing the world in some pretty big ways.
Right. And we can't just sit back and watch it happen. We all have to get involved.
We need to understand what's going on, stay engaged, keep asking the hard questions. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's up to us to shape it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, that wraps up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy diving.